Hello and welcome to Getting to Good Enough, a podcast to help you overcome perfectionism so you can do more of what you love. I'm Shannon Wilkinson, a life coach in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a recovering perfectionist who's getting better at good enough.
And I'm Janine Adams, a certified professional organizer in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm lucky enough to be naturally good at good enough.
And today we are going to be talking with Alexandra Franzen. Hey, Janine.
Hey, Shannon. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm especially excited. I'm always excited for every podcast, but I'm really excited for this one.
I know, because we are doing our first planned interview.
Yep.
With, as I mentioned, Alexandra Franzen. So why don't you share a little bit with our listeners about Alex?
Okay, she is amazing. Alex is an amazing writer, and both you and I, Shannon, have had the pleasure of working with her, so it's really exciting to get to talk with her about her new book. She is the author of the novel So This Is the End, a love story, which is being published this month on October 15th by Mango Publishing. Her other projects include You're Going to Survive, 50 Ways to Say You're Awesome, a best-selling question of the day journal for couples called Our Q&A a Day, and a romance novel called Milk and Honey. So not only does she write books, she writes articles. She's written articles for Time, Forbes, Newsweek, Huffington Post, and Lifehacker. She has been mentioned in places like the New York Times Small Business Blog, The Atlantic, USA Today, Stylecaster.
She's
BuzzFeed,
everywhere.
And now Getting to Good Enough, right? She also writes a really enjoyable newsletter. I love her newsletter that shares inspiring true stories, writing and creativity tips, positivity, encouragement, and motivation to pursue your goals. It's like a little bit of sunshine in your email inbox. I love it. She also works as a copywriter and writing coach, helping clients develop podcasts, videos, website, pitches, proposals, books, and other projects. You can read all about her at her website, alexandrafranzen.com. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, oh my gosh, it's always so weird to hear like your resume read aloud.
Yeah. It's an impressive one.
Hey, I tried to gather together the impressive bits, but there's been a lot of sloppy, weird bits along the way, too.
Ooh, well, maybe we can hear a little bit more about some of those in a bit.
Exactly. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, well, we are so happy you could be here. And I guess a fun way to start would be, we're all about overcoming perfectionism and getting better at good enough, at the idea of good enough. And we're sort of wondering, Alex, where do you find yourself on that spectrum?
So I too am a recovering perfectionist, and what's interesting that I've noticed about myself is that there are certain areas of my life and work where I feel very competent and very confident, and I can get to that good enough place very quickly. So, for example, you guys mentioned a moment ago so lovingly that I have an email newsletter. So I write a newsletter about once a week or so, and I send it out to my mailing list. I've been doing this for 8 or 9 years. I'm very comfortable with that type of writing. So it's like no big deal. It's just fun, and I can finish a newsletter and send it out and feel good about it with some ease,
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
then when it comes to other types of projects, for example, writing fiction, which is kind of a new-ish terrain for me, that is much harder to feel good enough because I'm not as familiar with it. It's not comfortable. It's out of my comfort zone. And so, to give you an example, this novel that you guys mentioned, So This Is the End, I really I felt almost panicky at first about sharing it publicly because I was so worried. I was worried about big things like, what if this just sucks, or what if the message doesn't land, or what if people don't like it? And then I worried about the little things, like, what if there's just crazy things, like, what if there's a typo? What if there's a page missing from the PDF and I didn't notice? I worried about all kinds of things, and it really took some kind of self-coaching and self-talking to myself to get to that point where I was like, you know what? It's good enough, and to just send it out. But it was not easy. So it's interesting how different types of projects and different types of work are different in terms of how quickly you can get to that good enough place. Do you guys find that as well in your own lives?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me, and I don't know that we've ever quite equated it as clearly and beautifully as you just did, Alex, but the idea that when you have confidence in your ability to do something, you're much more likely to be okay with good enough. And when you are more anxious, that's when you tend to get more perfectionistic.
Yeah, I think that's very true. That's true for me anyway, definitely.
I agree too. It makes a lot of sense. And I hadn't thought of it that way either.
Yeah. No, that's such an interesting way, because I think I've always thought about the perfectionism as creating the anxiety, as opposed to the anxiety, trying to sort of ease the anxiety with perfectionism.
Yeah, I think it's different for different people, but that's what I find to be true. And I think there's something about repetition too. If you do something over and over and over, whether it's like, organizing someone's home, or coaching someone, or going to the gym, or whatever, if it's a regular part of your routine, I don't know. It's like if you have an off day once in a while, you don't have the best workout, or you don't have the best yoga practice, or whatever. I think that we tend to be a little more forgiving with ourselves, and we go, okay, well, this wasn't the greatest day, but you sort of have an overall confidence in what you're doing that helps you to bounce back from those little slumps more easily. Right. Whereas if you only do it once a year, it's like so much more loaded and stressful somehow. Like if you only write once a year, we can be a lot harder on ourselves. It's a lot more intense than if you have like a regular writing practice and you're writing and sharing regularly, I think.
Yep, I agree. I write a monthly newsletter. I've been writing it for 11 years, I think now, and now I barely think about it when I'm doing it. I mean, obviously I put thought into it, but there's no stress at all, and it just, and I publish a lot with a lot less anxiety than I did 5 years or 10 years ago, without a doubt.
Yeah. Ooh, but so may I ask a question? Because I'm so curious about this. When you first started your newsletter, did you feel anxious about hitting send or publish? Like, what were some of the thoughts that went through your mind before you would release your newsletter?
Oh, I'm sure I did. I was worried, like, that my advice was good enough because I was a new organizer. I started it I started it a year or two after I started organizing. I wasn't so worried about the writing because I came to organizing after 10 years as a freelance writer, but I didn't want any typos. I was, I think, probably mostly afraid of criticism, like I was putting out some bad advice, or someone thought I was acting like I knew more than I had a right to know, or something like that. I literally haven't thought about that before, but that's what just spilled out of my mouth.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? That kind of fear of, like, that someone from the internet, some troll, is gonna email you and say, like, what gives you the right to tell me how to organize my drawers, or whatever. Like, it's so interesting when we really unravel, like, what is it that I'm afraid of? It's usually something kind of ridiculous. Like, I mean, sure, that might happen, but it's pretty unlikely. And even if it did, you could survive that because, you know that that's probably just a person who's having a very, very sad week and feels the need to lash out at a lovely organizer sharing helpful tips for free on the internet. But it is funny, though, how our minds go to those places of all the horrible things we think might happen if it's not perfect.
Right. And well, in publishing a novel, to me, is like, I don't know, I can totally understand why that would feel riskier, although it's not as though it has to be fact-based, but it's really putting yourself out there, I think. And so I get why it felt different to you from your newsletter, but you did a great job of it.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, because I truly was not sure that it was any good. I worried that, as a writer, I think you have this vision in your mind of what you want the finished book to feel like, or the message that you hope is going to come across to your reader. But you never really know, because reading is such a personal thing, and your message might land really strongly with one person, but then your message might not resonate with another person, and then another person just might not like your writing style in general. And so you can really get your head twisted into knots over, like, how do you even know if your book is good enough? Like, good enough for whom? So, and those are the kinds of questions that would send my brain into tornadoes of despair at 2 a.m. as I was putting the finishing touches on the book, because you can wonder about those things forever. But at a certain point, you do just have to click publish or send or save, or, at a certain point you just have to decide, I think it's done. And that's a hard thing. It can be a hard thing to do.
Well, and especially I imagine because this book was born as a self-published novel to begin with, and now it's being published by Mango Publishing. If you're working with a publisher, they're going to have a deadline. There may be some flexibility to that, but if you're self-publishing, there's really no deadline.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've done both now. I've done several self-published projects, and I've done several projects with traditional book publishers. And yeah, when you're self-publishing, you don't have an editor who's reading it and saying, fix this part, change that, I don't understand this part's great, the way that you do when you're working with a publisher. When you're working with a publisher, an editor is going to give you feedback, the design team is going to, do the interior layout and the cover, and at a certain point, the publisher is going to say, okay, this book is ready. So you sort of have this like external validation of other people saying, we believe in this is good enough, this is ready. But yeah, when you're doing it on your own, sure, you can hire an editor, et cetera, to help you, but you have to make the final call of the cover design's ready, the story's ready, I believe this is ready. And that can be intense. It's almost like we need to come up with our own personal set of criteria where you can say, this is my personal criteria for whether the project is ready or not. And if I've met this criteria, then I'm just going to make myself release it and stop fretting about it. And so, like, one of my personal pieces of criteria is when I'm really feeling anxious, I'll ask myself, do I feel confident that this project is going to help at least one human being to have a slightly better day? So in other words, do I feel like this will help even just one person? And I can usually answer that question by saying yes. I believe that this book is going to resonate with someone somewhere. and that's good enough. It has to be good enough.
Yeah, I can say it definitely resonated with me. So your work here is done.
Yay! Excellent. but seriously, it's like sometimes we have to kind of make up those kinds of criteria for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll just be spinning in that is it ready? I don't know. Is it ready? I don't know. Place indefinitely. It's like there's a friend of mine, Susan, who is a coach. She's a life coach, and she has some clients who struggle with perfectionism as well. And sometimes when they're saying like, oh, it's not ready, it's not done, it's not ready, it's not done, she'll ask them like, well, what does done mean? Or what does ready mean specifically to you? And she'll kind of make them break down the criteria that in their mind must be met in order for this to be ready. And I think that's a really powerful thing to do, because it gets you out of that anxious spinning place and into like a checklist, essentially, of, you know, the manuscript is 40,000 words. It's gone through a proofreading cycle. I feel confident it will help at least one person. Okay, it's done.
Yep.
Like I've
Yep.
I've met the criteria.
That's so smart to do, and especially to do it ahead of time. And we talk a lot about, you know, sort of knowing your priorities, knowing what you value. And I think this is an even more focused version of that, to know how you know it's going to be done. How do you know it's good enough?
Yeah, I think we have to do this with all kinds of projects, not just books. Because it's empowering. It's a way of like taking the power back into your own hands and saying, you know, I'm deciding what the criteria is going to be. I decide what done means. And once I've met that criteria that I've established for myself, criteria that's hopefully like sane and reasonable, then I know that this, for me, is good enough. And
right.
Yeah, it's a simple thing, and I agree. I think that doing that, you know, at the beginning of a project, at the outset of a project, is such a smart thing to do to alleviate anxiety and insecurity later down the line, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Alex, why don't you tell us a little about the premise of your book? It's such an intriguing book. I want everyone who hears this to run out and buy it.
You're so sweet. Yeah, so the premise of the book is, the central question of the book is, if you had 24 hours to live, what would you want to do with your time? What would your priorities be? You know, who would you want to spend time with? What would you say to those people? What are the experiences you'd want to have if it was your last chance, your last day on Earth? So that's the central question of the book, and the story is set a little bit in the future, and in this future world, which is very similar to our world today, just a little bit in the future, there's a new medical procedure where if you die, you can actually be revived. You can be resuscitated, brought back to life, but the effects only last for about 24 hours. So you're back, you're alive, but you know the clock is counting down, and you know this is your bonus round, essentially. You get this one extra day, one bonus day, to make amends or say goodbye or do whatever it is that you want to do before your life is over. And so the book is a 24-hour, 24-chapter book that follows this one woman as she navigates this final day, knowing that it is her last day. And it's a love story. She ends up falling in love on the last day of her life. And I won't spoil the rest after that.
I'm like getting all teary-eyed.
It's a powerful question. It's a question that, it makes me cry just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those questions that I think we need to always be asking ourselves, because we all fall asleep, right? We all get into these routines and habits, and we allow our calendars to be filled up with things that we don't especially want to be doing, and the days go by and the weeks go by, and it's like sometimes we almost need to be jolted awake by the reality that this is it. And, are the hours in your day really being filled with things that are meaningful to you? And if not, let's course correct right now, while there's time. Right. That's what I'm hoping people will think about after reading this book.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant. It's an important idea, and the story that you built around that idea is brilliant. I think it's just very enjoyable.
Thank you so much. And I want to emphasize, like, when I was when I was getting ready to release this book the first time, I remember sitting at my computer. I had loaded the PDF to my website. I was about to send out the newsletter to announce that people could download it. And I was so anxious that the writing wasn't strong enough, that people wouldn't get it, that the sex scenes were too graphic, that my mom would be ashamed of me. I had so many what if anxieties. So much so that I decided not to put it on Amazon, and really not to make a big deal about it, in other words. Like, I wanted to release it, but I wanted to do it very quietly, because I was scared that it wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And it actually took well over a year, as I started to get a little bit of positive feedback coming in, emails from people who had read the book and really enjoyed it. It was a gradual process before I decided, you know what, my confidence has grown. I can see that the story is connecting with some people, and now I think I'm ready to take it to the next level, and now I'm ready to try to find a publisher who will release it in a wider way. But it really, I'm serious, it was a year or two of taking little baby steps forward before I felt confident enough to bring this book into the world in a bigger way. It started as a very tiny, very quiet little project because I was scared. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you kept with it. And it's interesting because, one of the things that helps bolster confidence is this outside, getting comments from the outside. But if you don't tell anyone about it, you can't get that.
Right. I know. It's a tricky thing, too. And I'd actually be so curious to hear from you guys about this. Like, it's great to get external validation. Like, of course it's great when you get the positive email from a client or from a friend or from a blog reader who says, I love what you created, or I listen to your podcast every week and it's awesome. Like, it's always great to get that external feedback, and it can definitely bolster your confidence. At the same time, we can't become overly reliant on external validation. Right. We have to also know, just kind of in what I call your hut, which is like your heart and your gut, you have to feel in your hut that it's good enough, and that, and that you are enough, even without any external validation. So, like, I'm curious from you guys, how do you find that balance, or what helps you to stay somewhere balanced between those two things, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it's sort of interesting with this podcast in particular because we started it as just sort of a fun little thing to do together. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have any inclination that, it would go much beyond, a circle of friends, a small circle of clients, a few people would listen to it. But I wanted to talk about these things with Janine. I wanted to share this, and I wanted to have fun. And so I think that had we not been getting the external validation we've been getting, we still would be doing it as long as we were having fun and felt like we were having interesting, useful conversations.
Right. That was our promise to one another, that we would stop doing it when it stopped being fun. I guess the rest of the promise was that we would keep doing it while it continued to be fun. And it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. But we didn't expect the external validation, but that's been very motivating as well.
Ooh, I love that. It reminds me of something a friend said to me years ago. It's like, hopefully as you move through your life, your cup is already full, meaning you're already having fun, you're already happy, you're already enjoying yourself. And if you happen to get, an award or a trophy or a fan mail or, a positive feedback externally, it's like, whoa, like now your cup's overflowing. What a great bonus, but your cup was already full to begin with. And I think it's such a simple, like, visual metaphor, but it's so important. And it's something that I think we forget, all the time, that, hopefully as you're doing a project, a podcast, a book, whatever, you're already you're creating from a full cup rather than creating from an empty cup and then hoping that external iTunes reviews are going to fill that cup.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about that in terms of my coaching practice. And while it's nice to get feedback of any kind, I think of it more as sort of helping me maybe course correct as opposed to being the reason I do it. Like, I have to feel inside that I'm doing a good job and the work I do is worthwhile and helpful to people, and then it's making a difference. And then, whatever feedback I get is like, oh, hey, more of this, less of that, or, whatever. It sort of helps me fine tune things as opposed to being the reason that I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. You sort of have that inner confidence. You know that you are confident in your abilities, and then the feedback is just the refinement or just the overflow of the full cup. Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's cool.
That's interesting. Well, I had a question for you about going from your self-published version to the working with the publisher. What was that like? I'm assuming you had to make some changes. You had someone else sort of dictating what was good enough.
Yeah, it was, I will be honest, it was a surprisingly easy process. At least that part of the process was easy. So I think that the hardest part for me was just, first of all, finishing writing the book, then getting over the initial kind of emotional hurdle of releasing the book in a self-published format. That was like the biggest hurdle to get over. Then the emotional hurdle of, finding a publisher and arranging that deal. But then making the actual final tweaks on the book to get it ready for the re-release, it actually wasn't too hard. And I think the main reason was there wasn't a ton I had to do. I decided to rewrite a couple of scenes, and it was actually a pretty fun process. I remember it felt kind of like decluttering in a way, actually. I kind of stripped some things down. So that part was fun for me. And then the really fun part was my publisher wanted me to add some book club discussion questions to the back of the book. And that was really fun because I got to imagine, oh my gosh, what if someone actually reads this book at their book club? And I got all excited about that. And so that was fun to add. And then they also asked me to add kind of like a little, almost like a letter at the end, just talking a little bit about the inspiration behind the book. So there was really just a couple of very small pieces to add. So it wasn't, that particular part of it wasn't emotionally difficult. What's interesting, though, now, as we're getting very close to when this book is going to be released in hardcover and Kindle and on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the big sites, is I'm noticing that same feeling of anxiety that I felt the first time around when it was self-published of what if there's a typo, what if there's a page missing, what if there's just like all of these kind of little teensy fears are coming up again. And I'm having to kind of just tell myself, all the work has been done, the proofreading has been done, have some faith that this is ready. And it's interesting how those those anxieties can sometimes just circle back again and again and again at different points in the process. Yeah, but I'm doing it. I'm having faith.
Yep.
It's happening. I mean, it's already been printed. It's happening whether I like it or not. The train has left the station.
Yeah, yeah. And, so there literally is nothing you could do about it now.
Yeah.
And even if there was a problem like that, like, how much does that really matter?
And that is the thing that I always forget to remind myself is like, so what if there's a typo? So what if there's a page missing? Books are printed all the time with errors and issues, and what happens? They print a new batch and they fix it the second time around, and they give refunds to certain customers and they send them a new book. And it's like, it's not the end of the world, but for some reason, I think our brains feel like it's the end of the world.
Right.
And we forget to take a step back and go, you know what? It's okay. It's a book. It's not a rocket launch. There's no lives at stake here.
Right. Well, and the other thing, this has never occurred to me before, but if there were a typo or a page missing or something like that, that actually has nothing to do with you. That's on the publisher.
Right.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, so it's funny though how I'm going to be giggling about this the rest of the day, because so many times I think about the smallest little error, like a typo, and my brain makes it into this massive problem, when in fact it's not a huge problem. It's not even my responsibility at this stage.
Yeah.
And yet it can be so hard to just let it go sometimes.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, and this is your baby, and you want your baby to be perfect.
Matching socks and hat and everything.
Yeah. I have a vague recollection of some author who had like a note at the back of the book that said something like, if you find any errors or typos or anything, email them to this address and I'll give you a special gift. And turned it into a little bit of a contest.
Yeah. That's actually a delightful idea. I love that. And I've done stuff like that occasionally with my newsletter, where sometimes I'll add a PS that says, hey, I wrote this really quickly right before I headed out the door to yoga class. If you see a typo, sorry, we're all going to live. And sometimes just having a little bit of a sense of humor about it, and some levity, and kind of playing with your reader in that way can actually decrease my stress levels about it. So I love that idea of including a little note in the back and making it into kind of like a treasure hunt. Find the typo, get a prize.
Right.
Yeah, that's fun.
One of my books, I've written, 7 nonfiction books, and one of them was translated into a language I actually don't know what it is. I knew at one point. I think it's Romanian. Anyway, I can read enough of it to see that it says in the bio that Janine Adams is from St. Louis, Minnesota. And, and I don't care at all. That just makes me laugh. If the people in Romania don't know where St. Louis is, it's probably not a problem.
Right.
These things are out of our control.
There's probably a lot of Americans who think that St. Louis is part of Minnesota.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. That's really funny. Hey, it's in the general area, sort of.
That's right. That's great. Well, so we've been talking a lot about how you deal with this, but I know you work with a lot of clients over the years, including Janine and I, and I'm curious, when do you see perfectionism get in the way with them?
Oh my gosh.
How much does that come up?
Yeah, constantly. And I think it's because I tend to, when I work with clients, a lot of my clients are business owners of some kind or another. They run a small business, they run a medium-sized business, they run a yoga studio, they run a fitness company, they run a clothing line, they run a coaching or consulting practice. And these are people who, they love what they do, they want to do a good job, meaning that they really want to impact their customers and clients' lives. Like they want to make a difference. And so, which is a beautiful mission, but bundled up with that can sometimes be a lot of pressure, a lot of self-imposed pressure to be excellent, to be, on fire, to deliver the best possible service. So I find that a lot of my clients are a lot like me, honestly, in that they really love what they do and they have a lot of passion and creativity and heart, as well as some self-criticism and some pressure. One of the most common things that I see come up from time to time is around websites. I see people just really like obsessing about their website, kind of analyzing and reanalyzing every single sentence on their website. Should this be italic? Should this be bold? Is it okay if I say this? Should this go on that page? Does this have too many bullet points? Da, 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 da. And just really like spending just what feels like thousands of hours kind of obsessing and feeling like it's not ready yet. And I have people come to me where they've been kind of fiddling with the language on their website, for a year, and they still haven't launched the damn site. It's still kind of parked there because they feel like for whatever reason it's not ready. And that can really hold you back in business, of course. And it's not just websites; it's all kinds of things. It's programs, it's podcasts, it's blogs, it's books, it's systems, processes. It's all kinds of things, but the website, for some reason, is one that I see people really getting held up on. I think it's because it feels like there's so much weight that it's carrying. It's the first thing that a potential client or customer is going to see, so it's got to make that great first impression, and then people get really stressed about that, like, oh my God, my shoes don't match my jewelry, and I don't have the right pair, and blah. So that's one. And really the advice that I give to my clients is the same advice that I need to hear all the time, which is kind of like we talked about earlier. What does good enough mean to you? What is the criteria that needs to be reached in order for you to feel like this website is good enough? And let's keep it simple. Do you have a nice, up-to-date headshot of yourself on the site? Great. Do you have, a couple of sentences that explain what it is that you do? Great. Do you have some type of clear contact page or way for a client to get in touch with you? Great. Like, do we have the basic elements in place? And if so, can you just trust that that's enough for now, and that it's going to be so much better for you, for your income, and for the people you're trying to reach and help if you can just get this thing out there. And you can always refine more later. You can update again in 6 months or a year or whatever. But it's kind of like sometimes just hitting publish and just getting it up, that first push to get it up there can be the hardest part for a lot of people.
That makes a lot of sense. I especially in terms of websites, because it is easy to get caught up in wanting it to be perfect. And it's not you, it's a website, so it can't.
Yeah. Do you guys have website anxiety these days, or are you pretty chill about your website at this point?
I'm pretty chill about my website. I have a couple of them, but I had my share of anxieties over the years through them. And Shannon, you have a relatively new website.
I do, and I feel pretty good about it. And I didn't get caught up in that perfectionism. Which historically I would have, and I procrastinated on plenty of websites or content updates or whatever, wanting to get it perfect and fretting about how to convey what it is I do and blah blah blah. But I have to say, I think, Alex, that you sort of really got me through that. Working with you the first time really helped me get to the point where like, let's do this and live with it for a while and then make changes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that feeling of let's just do this, like let's just get it up there, is so important, because it releases you in a way. It gets the momentum going. And then, and then maybe you get some positive feedback. Maybe then your cup starts to overflow. Maybe you get the client who signs up who, wouldn't have found you any other way. Or you get, a lovely email from someone saying, oh, I love your new design, or whatever. And then that can start to bolster your confidence even more. But yeah, just getting it up there. That's the thing. And sometimes we have to be kind of ridiculous. Like, you might need to invite a friend over and, like, pop a bottle of champagne and have your friend, like, hover behind you saying, click the button, click it. And then, and kind of, like, cheerleading you over that hurdle, so that you're not doing that all by yourself, all alone in your home office, with the curtains drawn and no lights on inside. So it's like whatever it takes to just get you to publish the thing. Yeah. Whether it's like a friend or a coach or whatever, like, just give that to yourself so that you can do it.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you have ever used the service MailChimp, but when you get ready to send out your email, like a broadcast email to everyone on your email list, when you get ready to send it and the send button comes up, there's also the monkey, the chimp, like sitting there with beads of sweat coming off of his forehead, waiting for you to press the send button. And it's just by like acknowledging that it's a stressful moment, like it eases the stress.
That is so cute. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cute. They're cute with the monkeys. Yeah. You mentioned at the very beginning that there were areas where you feel more confident and you do things, and we've talked a lot about writing, but what other areas in your life do you feel like you're good with good enough?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say I feel good enough when it comes to my kind of like self-care and mental physical health. I used to be, especially a long time ago, like when I was a teenager, I used to be much more perfectionistic and really to a very unhealthy degree, especially about fitness and my body. But as the years have gone on, gosh, my 30s have been really fun in terms of just being good enough. And it's little things and it's big things too. Like, I mean, I spent so many years as a teenager feeling like just, obsessing about the stupidest things, like are my legs, toned enough to wear these shorts or whatever. And these days, I'm out in shorts like every day, flopping around, having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how, with time and work and age and all that, it's like you just don't care anymore about some of the things that you used to be so preoccupied with. So that's
gosh, I remember crying over bad hair days.
Yeah. I know.
And now it's like I can walk out of the house and be like, oh, whoops, I think I forgot to brush my hair today.
Yeah, it's nice to reach a point where you're like, look, like I love to work out. I love to practice yoga. I like to look cute. I like to dye my hair weird colors and do eyeliner and, all that stuff. But at the same time, like, I'm also okay running outside in, like, sweaty gym clothes with my hair in a giant matted ball and just, like, doing errands. And it's all good, there's no anxiety level about, what if someone sees me, or like, that kind of thing. So that's a nice change that has happened, over the last 15 years, really, since I was a teenager.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's ongoing. There's definitely still moments where I think, like most women, I'll have a moment of like body criticism or whatever, but I'm noticing that those moments are fewer and fewer, and that I'm able to kind of like bounce back from them faster than I used to when I was younger. Do you guys find that as well?
I don't even remember my teens. They were so long ago.
Long ago.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that part of the it's one of the nice things about getting older is losing the sort of self-consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just want to be happy. And I've also noticed that I've lost, in a good way, some of my competitiveness. Like, I remember when I was a teenager, and I'd go to a dance class or even a yoga class, which is not supposed to be a competition, and I was like obsessed with being, the best in the class, and I wanted to be, I wanted to sort of impress my teacher, and I wanted to get my leg higher in the air than everyone else, and I was just very driven to kind of prove myself and be praised. And nowadays, I don't care. I just want to feel, I'm just there to feel good. And I really could care less what the person on the yoga mat next to me is doing. And so that's a nice change too. And one that is so much nicer for my mental health.
Yeah. Well, it's so freeing. When you get to just pay attention to, in yoga class, doing the pose in the way that feels best to you.
Yeah.
And not worrying about even if it's right necessarily, but that you're doing the pose the best way for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so nice. I'm enjoying, growing older and noticing how a lot of the tension and preoccupation of my younger years, it really does start to dissipate over time, which is awesome. I am very happy about that.
Great.
Yeah.
More good enough in our lives.
Yeah. Yay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Alex. It's been just such a delight to talk to you, and I'm so excited for your book to come out, so I can tell everybody to buy it.
Aw, thanks. Hey, I have one final super quick question for each of you.
Oh, yeah?
So, if you had 24 hours.
God.
What is just one thing that you would absolutely want to do in that final day?
Well, the thing that jumped into my mind is take a very nice long walk with my husband and my poodle.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
It does. That's not too far from the first thing that popped into my mind, which was to take a walk along, maybe at the ocean, along the beach as the sun is setting on one of those beautiful, brilliant sunset nights.
I love that. I think I would go to the beach and I would swim in the ocean. I'd want to be in the water for at least a little bit and hopefully see a dolphin or a sea turtle.
Oh my God. Well, now you can do that. It would be easy because you're there.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. I love asking that question. It's always interesting what people say, and I hope that you can both do those things for real at some point this week or so.
Oh, I thought you meant on our last day, and then you said this week. And what?
No, I hope that your last day is not for a very long time, but I hope that you can do those things as just part of your regular life as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and having recently finished the book, it did make me really think about wanting to experience those moments, even if I can't be at the beach with my husband, watching the most beautiful sunset. I can, enjoy when he comes home from work and have that moment, as opposed to hey, we need to do this, we need, and get caught up in the everyday stuff. So I do anticipate more of those moments.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, taking those sweet little moments to just be alive. And put down the phone, put down the laptop, put down the to-do list, and just be with someone that you love or do something that you love. That's what it's all about, right? And it can be a small moment.
Oh.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being such an inspiration and chatting with us today, Alex.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. It was such a fun conversation, and you gave me some great things to think about as I continue to wrestle with my inner perfectionist.
Well, we hope that good enough gets easier for you.
Thank you. That's really sweet. I hope so too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And so that wraps it up for this episode of Getting to Good Enough. Janine, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I just want to say that was really fun, and I'm so delighted that Alex took the time to talk with us. She had so many great things to say. I have nothing to add.
I know, it was really awesome. I'm going to look forward to editing this one for sure, just to re-listen to it. So if our listeners have any questions or feedback or want to share with us how they might spend their last 24 hours, and we can pass that on to Alex, you can leave us a voicemail at I almost said 503 at 413-424-GTGE. That's 4843. And you can also find us on our website at gettingtogoodenough.com. And for now, this is Shannon Wilkinson in Portland, Oregon.
Janine Adams in St. Louis, Missouri.
And we hope good enough is getting easier for you.